morning/afternoon. I never know exactly what time of day it is when we're at 11:30. So we want to welcome everyone today to our very first Limitless Women, Wealth, and Wellness webinar series. If you have gathered anything from the short time you've been on the call with us, just know this is our first time hosting a webinar for everyone. So we are doing our best on the technical side of things. And if you can just bear with us if we ask a couple things verbally, rather than being able to do things behind the scenes. I wanted to give, and before we get into opening welcome remarks, I wanted to share just a little bit of housekeeping items with you. If we can please make sure to keep our audio muted during this time. We also have the chat feature. We have that disabled right now. We're going to open that up towards the end of our webinar. If anyone has any questions, feel free to have those in that box. But right now, if you try to type anything in, you won't be able to. Okay, we're going to dive in. Again, welcome to our first Limitless Women, Wealth, and Wellness webinar series. My name is Jennifer Frazier. I am one of the partners here at Frontier Investment, and we're so excited that we get to spend some time with you all today. I have Nicole Pate joining us, and we'll talk, I'll let her introduce herself here in a minute, but she is going to, I think, really dazzle us and give us some great information today on clutter control and spring cleaning our home life. I have had a personal interaction with Nicole. She has been in my home, so I will trust that all the stories that she's sharing about her clients are not about me and my family and our disorganization before she got here. And then we're going to talk about how that goes hand in hand with spring cleaning your financial life. So when we start thinking about things, I think that this is a no better time to really hop in and think about spring cleaning in our own lives. So Nicole, do you want to share a little bit about your business and you, and then we'll dive in?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. I'm so excited to be part of this conversation. Of course, I could talk about organizing all day long. I've worked with organizing clients for over 10 years now, and I just enjoy meeting the clients exactly where they are and helping them move forward. Obviously with a clutter-free home, but also with maybe a new perspective of how they think about their things moving forward. We deal with clients in all stages of life. So one day I'm working with a new mom that needs to set up her nursery. The next day it is a large family that's just moved and they need help unpacking. And then maybe it's the empty nesters that are ready to downsize or just move and start a new chapter of their life. So what I've found when working with clients is when they reach out to us, they're in one of three camps or maybe a combination. Number one, they just have a lack of time. They're an organized individual, but they just don't have time to set up the systems they need in their home, or a lack of time and there's a deadline. There's an impending deadline, there's a big move, there's a big event at their house that they need some organization done. There's something about to happen and they just need extra hands. The second camp would be those that maybe just don't have the resources or the skill set to do the organization themselves. They can acknowledge that the organization is important. They know they need systems in their home set up. They just don't know how to get there. And of course, we can help those individuals too. And then the third is really there's something emotional going on in their lives, either really positive or possibly really tragic. And they're needing to make decisions to move forward, and they just don't know where to start. I'll say that those are the clients that are sometimes the most rewarding in helping them past that. They're just overwhelmed and stuck, and they need to be unstuck in some kind of way. And so, obviously I found personally with helping clients, and obviously research shows that when you're living in an organized space, you feel calmer, less stressed, and obviously can be more productive. So That's a little bit about my business. And so I'm really excited to join this conversation.
Thanks so much, Nicole. And for those of you that may have questions, because I know that we are a firm that works with clients all over. Myself and Nicole, we are actually here in Houston. But at the end of our call today, if you are looking for a personal organizer like Nicole in your own area, she'll be able to help you find those resources as well. So Nicole, I think everything that you mentioned is so important. And in being in Houston this past weekend was the first really nice weekend that we've had, where I was thinking, oh my goodness, what better time for us to be talking about clutter control? Because I wanted to be in the garage. I wanted to, really, and you've seen my garage, so you know what that means for me. But I really was thinking about how do I have things in more of an organized manner where I just feel lighter when I go through my day to day, that I feel, more organized, where I feel like I have more balance in life, where I have more clarity on what's going on. And I may do this every day for a living and working with clients on wealth management, getting them organized with their finances, with a financial plan, with making sure we're meeting, their goals and objectives and really taking on that heavy lifting. But how do we move from feeling kind of paralyzed and weighed down to feeling freedom and clarity, not only in our finances, but in our home? And I know that when you came into my home, that's where I was. I had no idea when I was getting ready in the morning where a shirt was, where a jacket was, much less where, shoes were. And so I think about just my own personal experience with you on just the increased productivity that I have in the morning. It doesn't take me 15 minutes to figure out where everything is. I can go and I can grab things. And I started thinking about how this is successful and how we set goals and really follow a process. Um, so before we talk about what that means for your finances, I thought I'd ask you, when you're setting kind of goals and following a process or coming into someone's home and seeing things, how do you know exactly where things are going? How to stay organized? What does that goal setting look like?
Well, for us, we really want to, it's very dependent on the client and how they function on a daily basis. But the goal is to have a permanent home for all items, and have typically one home for all that same category of items, unless it makes sense to have it in a few places. But um, for me, I have 4 children, and so everyone knows where to go when they need another toothpaste. They know where the keys are. They know where the pool towels are. So kind of setting up, trying to figure out on a daily basis what these individuals do, and what they need to grab for. And then also, the biggest thing is some people like to see everything, or other people like things behind a bin or something, that you can't see with a nice label on it. So we kind of work through for each client how they can organize things. And do they need to see them, or is a label enough to know what's in that basket? And so we kind of work through that process first, to determine, what works for them, and then also really what's not working. And that's kind of what I typically ask them, what's not working, and let's figure out how to make it work for them. And it's different for each individual, but I would say that putting systems in place so that you know what you have and where it's at is really the first goal.
Mhm. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot here a little bit, but if you are to get stuck, if you are, for everyone here with us today, if they're trying to do this on our own and we're just getting a little bit stuck in that, what would be the first thing that you would recommend for them?
So when someone tries, I think, to organize on their own, I would say start small. So you wouldn't try to organize your whole closet in a day. which involves, yes, taking everything out of that closet. And so that's a big job and a heavy lift. So when you're stuck on something big, then start small, like a junk drawer. I mean, it's called a junk drawer for a reason. So typically, if you take everything out of it, probably half of it you could probably put in the trash. And then when you put things back in that drawer, it looks nicer. That's just the way things go. And so start small. When we're talking about, situations where maybe someone has passed on and you have to make big decisions about sentimental items, keepsake items, that is not the place to start. Typically, sometimes you have to make those decisions, but when we go in with clients, I definitely don't try to start there because there's a lot of emotion attached to that. So you start with the really easy things first, like a junk drawer or a hall closet. I mean, something super easy is where I would start if I was doing this by myself.
Perfect. Thank you. I know that's where I was, and I know from our side, at Frontier, when we are working with clients to take on the heavy lifting of their investments, their financial planning, estate planning, if it's a charitable plan, that's kind of where we find ourselves as well. Our team is coming in and we have so many things that we like to accomplish with our clients, but we know a couple things. And the first is that every client is very unique as far as how they view things. Nicole, going back to what you mentioned, some clients like to see things, some like them behind, a bin. We all have our own money story. So we all come to the table and we have thoughts around our money and how that's working for us, and what freedom of that means. So it's establishing the goals and the objectives for each individual unique client, and then making sure that we don't have analysis paralysis by trying to tackle everything at once. So if we can go through and really walk alongside a client and create that financial plan, we're able to understand what we are trying to do. Then we can go back and talk about the investment strategy. Then we can talk about gifting to our kids, grandkids. We can talk about, really what the long term means. I think that, all too often we kind of sit back, especially in when we're working with clients and we come in and we say, okay, well, this is what we need. Well, we may not even know that in the beginning. It's our job to really walk alongside you and create and help develop those unique financial goals and objectives. So Nicole, we've talked a little bit about this as well, but if it comes to your finances or if it comes to your home, we all have emotional attachment to items, to things. That's something that I don't think that we can really get away from. If it's a stock that we inherited from our grandfather or from our parents, we feel like we need to hold on to that to honor their memory. Maybe even if that doesn't meet the goals and objectives that we have today. You shared that you experienced some of that as well in working with clients. Do you mind sharing a little bit about maybe how we can honor their memory or questions to ask ourselves in storing things?
Yes. Again, this is the most rewarding part of my work, but it's also obviously some of the work that you have to tread lightly in going through questions with individuals. And I really, you want to honor someone's memory. So, the first thing is to ask the questions about things that are gifted to you from someone that maybe has passed on. Does this item actually bring you comfort, joy, or memories? Sometimes you might be gifted things that actually do not hold any memories for you. The person that gave it to you, maybe it was important to them, but does it have any positive memories for you? Are you keeping it out of love and connection or out of guilt or obligation? And I think that is the biggest question that you start with, to really be honest with yourself when you are gifted something in this way. Um, and really think about it in, would your loved one want you to feel burdened by taking on this gift? Or does it really truly bring you happiness? And so those are kind of the first really big, hard questions to answer. And then from there, just think about the practicality of whatever you've been gifted. Is there a practical use for this in your daily life? And then you go on to, is there space in your home for whatever's been gifted? I mean, we could be talking about a piece of jewelry, or we could be talking about a grand piano. So, do you have the space for whatever's been gifted to you? And is there instead a smaller keepsake, like some jewelry or photos or letters, that you could keep instead of? I have a client right now that we decluttered our house for about 6 months as she was preparing for a move. Now, the move wasn't really a downsize, it was just moving to be closer to her son. And so in that move, she did get rid of many things, but probably would have wanted her to get rid of more just to be able to have less clutter in her new house. But she did get rid of a lot. Then we moved her, and she's in the process of moving over several stages of moves. And she also then went to a storage unit where she had her mother's belongings, and then brought things to our new house from her mother. And so now there's memories tied to it. And so we have to go through, if we keep this, then probably something else needs to go in order to have room for other pieces of furniture. And so that's really just, practically, do you have the space for it? And then when trying to preserve these memories, would maybe a digital archive or photo of this item be enough for you? And be able to give away the item instead. The other option to consider is if it's part of a larger collection of something, some type of figurine or a set of china, can you keep one placemat of the place setting and not keep the whole set if it's just about a memory? And I've found that's something that sometimes clients can agree to when trying to figure out what to keep. And then think about, is there someone else in the family that might more benefit from the item than you, or have the space for it? And if there's not, then how can you donate this item in a meaningful way for the legacy of whoever has gifted it to you? So maybe donate, again, I'll just say, use the grand piano again. The loved one was a music teacher and had a piano. Could you find a nonprofit that needed a piano for their after-school music program to be able to donate it in their name? So there's those questions to consider. And then the last question is, do you want to hang on to it for future generations? And I will tell you, in love, most children typically don't want the things their parents want to give them. They probably sometimes want other things. It's interesting when you ask 20 and 30-year-olds, they're not necessarily hanging on to the same things that our generations hung on to. And so you have to consider that if you're going to decide to pass it on, but is it something that will be meaningful to a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old? And so those are kind of the questions to go through in dealing with something that was gifted to you, because there is a lot of emotion that goes along with it. But I think you can work through it and figure out a way to honor your loved one's legacy and memory.
I think that's great. Okay, you are not coming over to help with my kitchen anymore because you have the comment on China. I want all the place settings. I want to keep those. And I know my daughter probably will have nothing to do with those, but we have to have all of them just in case. So I think that's such a perfect segue, to being attached to things, from a financial sector. There are so many parallels, you're talking, and I'm just thinking about, different client engagements and interactions that I've been through, just most recently the last year. Here we are, not even 3 months in. But when we start thinking about what do things look like to clean up our finances, what do things look like, that we may have emotional attachments to, and how do those get gifted to the next generation? Um, we've talked about this, but there's going to be a huge shift in generational wealth, first going to women and then going to our kids. The numbers are staggering. And when we start thinking about what that means to us, we've got to start thinking about things in terms of I've got accounts here and I have little pieces of things that I've inherited here. um, how do we get all of those in an organized fashion? Clients that work with us know that we have something called Wealth Pass, where we're able to go through and track every account that you have, even if it's something that Frontier is not helping you manage. And really, it's for you to see where your money is, how that's working for you, and again, how we can really help you meet your goals and objectives with things that you've either saved for, inherited, or want to pass on to the next generation. Um, it's really easy to put a beneficiary on an account and have money pass to another individual or to a charity if something happens to you. It's not as easy to pass on experiences, values, family stories. Those are the things that are really, really important as well. I'm working recently with a client, and part of what she wanted to do is gift inheritance while she was still living, so that way her kids could enjoy it. Well, we started looking at her husband had passed, and we started looking at the assets that were in the account, and there was so much emotional attachment to these individual holdings. And half the companies she didn't know, who they were or what they did, just that her husband chose those, and so was holding on to his legacy. And then when we started chatting with the kids, they said, "Oh, no, 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 sell everything and give me cash. I want to take this and I want to do something completely different for that." Again, I think it goes back to, really thinking about each individual, and how do we put a plan in place that's going to help you be the most organized version of yourself and then stay organized. And I think about that not only from our home, but also from our finances. How often do we go through and we do things and then we don't stay on top of it? We don't have the repetition. We don't have maybe things as organized as we should have on the front end. And then 6 months down the line, we find, oh gosh, where was this account again? I forgot to do that. So for those of you that work with Frontier, make sure that, your teams are working and walking alongside you, so that way we can get everything buttoned up in that plan. The other thing that we'll talk a little bit about when cleaning up our finances is, how do we take all of the paper that we have and how do we secure that? How do we digitize that? And then when we start thinking about our digital assets, how do we protect those? Um, so I'm not for sure if everyone is aware, but when you pass and we start thinking about, your digital assets, when you pass, those are an asset. So if it's your social media account, if it's your online banking account, if it's logging into your investment account, a person that would be able to carry on, your legacy and what you want that to look like. So Nicole, before I dive into even more when it comes to kind of digital decluttering with your finances, what are some of the things that you've been through with clients and walking through how to safely secure things in your home?
Well, attachment to paper is real. And so a lot of clients that I have want to hold on to the paper. And I think I have a client right now who's I've known for over 10 years. And a couple of years ago, her husband was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he's doing quite well. But he and his secretary had always managed everything to do with the house or houses. And about a year ago, my client had to take over managing the finances, bill pay, anything to do with taxes, legal matters, trying to change over so that her email was, in all correspondence and mail. And that was a big, shift in their household for her to manage that. And it was really difficult for her. And some of it is because she hangs on to paper, but she's also not organized. And so there were, notes written on the back of an envelope about something, and then there was a few legal pads, there was notebooks, there was a password notebook, but sometimes passwords got written other places. And so there was a lot of disorganization that then caused stress. She wanted the paper, but the paper wasn't organized. So then when you're trying to find it, it just caused more stress than maybe trying to organize emails into folders and then having digital files that she could access. But the biggest thing is being able to feel comfortable with digital organization. And I think for some people, that's just scary, and I understand it. But I read a statistic recently that said 80% of the paper that we file, we never access again. So I think we might as well digitally file it then if we're never going to look at it again. But and that's the other part, is that there's a lot of visual clutter when we have paper piles, and that's one of the number one places that we see disorganization and clutter in a house is paper that someone doesn't necessarily want to throw away, but they don't know what to do with it or how to keep it in a file system. And so my biggest advice to clients that are hesitant about technology is, if you're not sure about the technology, find someone or a software that can help you, that you feel you can trust. So maybe it's, a child that is good with technology, and let them set you up on baby steps to digital organization. Hang on to the paper for a while, but then get comfortable with it through someone that can help you work through it. And that would be my biggest suggestion. Obviously, are things you have to keep original copies of, birth certificates, wills, property deeds, that type of thing. But I would go towards trying to get more digitally organized, because in the end, it doesn't seem like it. It's safer, and doesn't cause as much clutter as the paper.
Thank you, Nicole. I think it's interesting as well, because when we think about the clutter, we think about, organized chaos. Oh, I know exactly where that is. Yes, it's in that stack of paper over there. But if something happens to you, and, I think about if something were to happen, to me, and I was out a couple days, and I told my husband, hey, go in my office and find this. It's in that area here. We are not going to have success in that. And so we start thinking about um, having things digitally that are really important to us as well for your finances, not just when you pass, but while we're living. And we think about estate planning, we think about 5 key documents that we need. Most of the time when we think about estate planning, we're actually thinking about, if I pass, then this is what happens. But if we are somehow incapacitated and we need help, we need to make sure that we have medical directives. medical power of attorneys. We need to make sure we have durable power of attorneys. We need to make sure your HIPAA documents are in line. So if something does happen to you, your loved ones can call in and get information about where you are. And then we want to make sure that we're storing those in the vault with WealthPass. We are not walking around with our medical power of attorneys waiting for an emergency to happen. So if those documents are stored in a place that we can get to those easily, then I know it may be scary at first to have all of those digitally organized, but for you and for your loved ones, it's one of the best things that you can do. I think back to a year ago, we had a client and her son, it was about 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, sent a text and said, I need my mom's medical power of attorney. Do you have any idea where it is in their home? And I said, I have no idea where it is in their home, but we have a copy of it. Let me email that, over to the doctor. She had gone into the hospital, and unfortunately, that was a situation where she could not make those decisions on her own. So when we're talking about organizing from, the financial side of things, the best thing that you can do for your loved ones is to do everything you can to organize those financial records, to organize those estate planning documents. And the other thing that we'll talk about, really in terms of kind of updating, those documents. And we talked a little bit about things that you would need on your estate plan while you're living. But if something does happen to you and you pass, your wills and your trust, what do things look like? When was the last time that you reviewed those? We do recommend reviewing those at least every 3 years, especially when we're talking about charitable giving. Things change with charities. It may be something where, we've got everything spelled out and we know exactly, what our philanthropic goals are and this is where things are going. But we need to make sure that we go back and revisit things, not only if there's any sort of legislation change, tax law change, but we want to make sure that that charity that you are involved in, that your money is going to go exactly where you want that to go. So another reason to just make sure not only that we're reviewing those documents, but that those are stored in a place that you can get to those easily. Another real quick story, I had a client came in a couple weeks ago and they had 3 different wills. They didn't have those stored digitally, but they had 3 different wills and they said, I have no idea why. They were going back to 20 years ago and we had to go through and say, okay, this is your current will. This is what's missing. We need to take these. We can shred those. We don't need those anymore. And then let's make sure that we're actually titling your accounts properly. This client had to trust that they had already gone through all the hard work of establishing to make sure that their assets didn't go through probate, but nothing was titled in the trust. No one had ever told them, hey, here are all of your documents from the estate planning attorney. Now we need to take that next step to make sure everything is re-registered, retitled. So it's work, but I will tell you that when we think about, living a life that, we're trying to live lighter, we're trying to have more balance, we're trying to get rid of that clutter. One of the best things we can do is make sure that we follow things all the way home. Doing things partially, I think gets us back to that same analysis paralysis. Nicole, again, you were in my home, in my closet, and in my pantry. I'll use our pantry as an example. We had things halfway done. I had, our little plastic, flour, sugar, whatever, and then everything else was just spread out because I had no system in place. And quite frankly, I didn't have anyone walking alongside me saying, this is the best way to do that. Clients come to us and they hire us all the time for financial, investment, charitable, estate planning guidance and advice. but I never thought about outsourcing that. So anything else that you can think of on, kind of living lighter or decluttering our homes?
Um, well, the whole living lighter thing, I think as women, we like to hold on to gifts that we get. I don't do that, but I think I'm odd. I counted up, I think I've moved about 35 times in my life. So I tend to not keep things because you're moving things around over and over again and realizing you don't use them. Um, but I think as women, we need to kind of learn that if we are given a gift, it was given with love, but we don't necessarily always have to keep it. If we're going to keep it and stick it in a closet to never see it again, why not pass it on or donate it to someone that's actually going to enjoy it? And I know that's a hard thing to do because we know when we buy gifts, it's with love and joy and thought. And so it's hard for us sometimes to relinquish items that we know we might not use. But I also feel like when we're gift giving, also to consider what types of items we're giving, to other people. And does it have to be a physical gift, or can it be more like experiences? I saw a staggering statistic recently that said, another organizer shared, that said that the average home has 300,000 items in it, and 80% of people only use 20% of the items in their house. That's shocking to me. And so some ideas for just gift giving to people that are other than physical gifts. You could do tickets. I tend to try to find concert tickets or some kind of event for my kids when their birthday comes up. I feel like that's what they're going to remember instead of a pair of shoes that I bought them in 10 or 15 years. Dining experiences, travel could also be, depending on who it is, how much money you want to spend on them. Travel could be an idea. Workshops or classes like, painting or yoga or something like that. What woman doesn't want a spa or wellness package? That would be a great one to give to somebody. And then personalized services like a home organizer or a stylist. I am given as a gift often. Typically it's moms wanting to help their daughter who is maybe a new mom or just moved, and helping get their children organized, adult children. Also just like yoga lessons, golf lessons, or also you can think about charitable contributions. If you know what cause is important to the person, then you could donate to that cause in their name. So those are just ideas of things to give that are meaningful, that will have probably memories tied to it, but isn't exactly something you're adding to their house.
Yes. Well, that's how we met each other. You were a gift from my husband. I don't know. I don't know if that was, hey, you need to get your closet organized, or, really what that was, but albeit a wonderful gift. So I completely understand that. And I think that, you're talking about things, each gift that I receive, I think, oh, this was purchased, for me. Someone thought about me, exactly what you were talking about. I have to keep this. I'm probably one of those, I don't want to say 300,000 items in the home, but I'm definitely one of those that probably they don't use everything because it'll sit there and I'll think, oh, that person gave that to me. My husband, no problem. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to send it back. And to me, that is just unheard of. I would never think about that. But it really is a different way to look at it, and it's a freeing way to look at it. I'm not going to use this. Let's get rid of this or pass that on to someone else who can actually use that. I think about that with finances as well. You know, it's not just about passing on a dollar when something happens to you. It's how your money is working for you while you're living, and where you can really see that impact. What are your family values and goals? And how do you share in experiences with being intentional? Instead of just gifting cash, how do you gift a new vacation and a new experience that you all have never received? Or how do you take that stock that you received from your parents that you're still holding on to, and how do you gift that to the next generation? I know we don't have fun, beautiful stock certificates anymore like we used to when I started in this business, but I think that there's still something, tangible to see. And it's really, making sure that, we're passing on those legacy items, we're passing on stories, we're passing on the things that are really important to us, because each and every one of us on this call, when we think about our home, when we think about money, that that thought about it comes from what we've experienced in our own lives. It's how we were raised. It's those experiences that we've had. How does that money bless your life? How can you pass that on to the next generation in a way that's going to make a profound impact on them? So I think that, all of that is made possible through being as organized as possible as well with your finances, knowing what you have, knowing why you have it, knowing how it's working for you. Perfect. So I know that we are here at about 45 minutes. I will say this, when we think about organizing our homes, when we think about organizing, our finances, there's no more important process that you can go through yourself and again than your loved ones. I can't tell you how many times a client has come in and there are paper boxes, or there are so many things that are coming in, and we just are coming in and taking on the heavy lifting of everything, but it's not bringing a whole lot of peace. So I think that the more we can get in front of this, and the more we can go ahead and go through that process with our own finances and in our own home, I think that the more clarity, more balance, more focus, and more freedom we have in the future. So I think that we're going to open things up to questions. We've got some time left. There is a chat box in the bottom right of your screen. If you click on that, you will be able to send a note. And Nicole or I will do our best to read those and to answer those. Let me just do a quick test here. Okay. Perfect.
Jennifer, I'm sure no one wants to ask my opinion about anything they should keep or not, since I said that about China, I guess.
No, I'm sure there is. So I think that we have a question on someone that we would recommend in South Florida. And, we have recommendations in South Florida, not only for financial wealth managers to work with, but Nicole, I'm sure that we can give you some information on different home organizers there as well. So I'm writing your name down. We have your information, and we'll send a follow-up email to you on that.
And I can right here, Jennifer. So there's actually a national organization for professional organizers. And so I just sent in the chat the website, napo.net. And so on that, you can go to Find a Pro and find an organizer in your area.
Perfect. And I know that we have individuals on this call that currently work with Frontier, and then there are some that probably do not. I have our website listed there as well. We are a nationwide firm in 9 different locations, so I'm happy to give you some information there as well.
Nicole, this is Gail, and we recently moved as well, and my master closet downsized quite a bit for me, which I was not super happy about, but the new house did have a larger laundry room, so I counted that as a win. But I put off organizing my master closet and then decided I would tackle it recently. And to your point, it is not a one-day job. You had to pull everything out of it and start going back in. And I found that a large part of my organization was purging. And I don't know if that's a normal thing or not, or if I'm just somebody who doesn't get rid of things. But I found that after purging, the organization part of it came a lot easier for me. And I kind of got to this point where, oh, that just needs to be trashed because I've worn those tennis shoes for 10 years and I would not put them on anyone else. And then there was the stack of, oh, I've never worn these. They have tags on them still. I should donate these. So that was kind of my thought process. But in your own personal experience, do you find that a lot of your clients, that's part of your organizing them is purging as well? And maybe purge is not the right word to use, but I couldn't even get started until I felt like I got rid of some things. So what is your thought process on that? And counsel me all you want, because maybe I shouldn't have purged as much as I did, but my husband was very excited about it.
Yeah, no, that's like the magic secret to organizers. If we just get rid of the things you don't want anymore and put the rest back in, it looks better. Just that literally saves us so much right there. But yeah, that's the point. We just, I would say that that's exactly what we do. Exactly what we do. So all the things that still have tags on it, either, you can find a Goodwill or you can find a really good nonprofit close to you. Maybe that helps domestic abuse victims or something like that, and give clothes and shoes. It would be very helpful. And then once you've gotten rid of that, what you put back in, you can see better. And so the other things that you wanted to keep that you still have tags on, now you can wear because you can see them better. So I would that's the process. You sort and categorize and color code, and then you'll have a great closet.
Yeah, it's so funny because my mom and sisters are like, is that new? And I'm like, no, I just can see what's in my closet now. And I'm wearing things I haven't worn in a while. So thank you for that. I mean, it just, it is refreshing to be able to walk in your closet and see the floor and know where things are. So yeah, purging was not that hard for me. I don't know what that says about me, but it was definitely refreshing.
Thank you. Nicole, and I have another question that came through the chat box. Can you share stories about how we can, or excuse me, can you share on how we can pass on stories to our kids about the things that maybe we've inherited from our family members, but we don't want to keep?
Yes. So as far as just preserving the memories of that, I'm blanking on the name. Let me hold on. I did this for my father, and I'm trying to find the name. Oh, Storyworth. Storyworth is a great project. And it's a project, but it will be so meaningful to really you. Or what I did it for was my father. He's 76 right now. I did it about 3 or 4 years ago. It's a year-long project where the person that you want to create the book about their life gets one question a week for 1 year. And you can customize, they'll give you the questions or you can make up your own. So they answer the question. Now, my dad's not tech savvy. So what I did is had the question emailed to me, and then I texted it to him, and he wrote down the answer and sent me a picture of it. And then I typed it back in. Well, however it works, the answer goes back to Storyworth, and they keep all the answers. And at the end of the year, they put it into a book, and then you can edit it from there before it's printed, and you can add pictures to it. And I learned so much about my father's childhood and things about his, that he did in his 20s and how he started farming. And it was very interesting. And so he has the book because he's proud of it because it's about him. But obviously at some point I will have it, and it'll be very meaningful to me. So that's the product that I would use called Storyworth. That's worth like capturing all those memories, and you can add photos to it.
Oh, that's fun. We can also take a look if it's something like that, or if it's a handwritten letter, or, I mean, I think about your dad writing that and sending you a photo. I mean, that right there, just having that handwritten note on that story is so important. And we have a vault feature for our clients where they can store all of these documents. So it's a cloud storage that you can use. But I think that anytime, if it's a folder, let's say you wanted to share all of that information with your family, what's so great about that is we can upload everything for our clients to this folder. And maybe it's, dad's legacy. And then you're able to share that with your family members. And you can do that for not so fun things like taxes and estate planning, and make sure that we're corresponding with your tax accountant or estate planning attorney as well. But I think that's so neat. I've never heard of Storyworth, so that may be a new project. I'm going to tackle some of the other organizing I need to do first, so don't worry. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left. Any other questions? You're pretty. We had another question. Nicole, I'll ask this, and then we had a great, actually two quick questions here, and then had another comment about a way to declutter. So financially or organizationally, how do you balance the difference of opinions on how to handle finances? And I'll take that one. But what about things as simple as where do you put the popcorn bowl? A family member may think it should go here, and then someone else thinks it goes here. When you're taking a look at organizing things in the home, Nicole, how do you determine where those go?
Okay, well, the kitchen is my domain, so I'm going to answer it as a woman that manages, cooks. I organize the kitchen, so wherever it makes sense to me is what I would say. But then also my kids are the ones who usually pop popcorn, so I would make it accessible to them wherever they can get to it the easiest, I would say. And then it would be around what's important to me and what I can get to, and then put it somewhere that they can get to it. So,
yeah. I think on the financial side as well, we work with so many clients where, the husband and wife come in and we may have differences of where we want to spend money, or one's a spender and one's a saver. And so when we think about, how to balance those different opinions, I think it all goes back to the family goals and objectives that we're really trying to meet. What is it where, you've got one individual that wants to, do this over here, and you have one individual that wants to do this. We find a lot of times they're actually not too different. It's just how do we bring those together and really make sure that both parties understand kind of where we're moving, and how any short-term decisions we make could affect those long-term outcomes. So inherited organized coin collections. We have had this discussion with clients on coin collections, stamp collections. I know that here in Houston, there is a group down near Memorial, and they will actually come to your home and they will help you in valuing what that is. And so I would say what to do with inherited coin collections or any other collections that you inherit. The first is determining if you want to keep those or not, or if anyone else in the family wants to keep those. And if you don't, then how do you monetize that into something that you may want to keep or gift? So Suzanne, I will make sure that I reach out to you on that question as well. Oh, perfect. Margarita, thank you. There was there was a comment in the chat on another place to take everything to as well. And then we also got a note on artifacts, and I guess that's similar to StoryWorth on helping you declutter. I've loved the messages in the chat box, and for those that have wanted to, speak and ask questions as well, we've loved that as well. We're coming up on our time today. The one thing that I will share, please keep on your eyes out for additional topics that we are having. We are going to have a webinar series. This is the first of them. But if you can see my screen here, Nicole, can you see that okay, or do I need to make that a little larger?
I can see it.
Okay. Really Limitless, our Women Wealth and Wellness program, we want this to be a community of learners. We want this to be for folks that are coming together and really learning about things that are important to them. So not only are we going to have webinars, we will have in-market events, and then we have an incredible monthly newsletter. So I've got the QR code up here. You all can scan that with your phone, and that will immediately send a note to us, where that way you can join not only the webinars, but also our newsletter. You can also go back and chat with your Frontier advisor on that. And then I also have Nicole's QR code for her newsletter. So, and Nicole, I apologize for some of it being a little bit blurry, but the QR code works. I did already check that.
Okay, good.
Good. So we'll leave that up there for just a minute. Thank you all again so much for joining us. We hope that your spring cleaning endeavors, this motivates you, and you can start on things as soon as we hang up. And we look forward to seeing you at the next Limitless Women Wealth and Wellness event.
Thank you, Jennifer, for having me.
Thanks for joining us, Nicole.